Hi, my name is Gudrun from GE Designs, and in this video, I'm excited to introduce you to the Stripology Quarters Mini Ruler. The Stripology Quarters Mini Ruler has slits every 1/4 inch, so you can cut 1/4 inch increments as well as 1/8 inch increments. You will notice that the 1/4 inch slits every other sit a bit higher, so they're easily recognizable. You can also cut 1/2 inch increments and whole inch increments. You will notice that the markings down here are 1/2 inch increments, and then you have the stars marking 1.5 inch increments for easy navigation. For the mini rulers, I recommend using a 45mm rotary cutter. And we are going to start by cutting our strips. We're going to be using fabric that is half width, so either fat 8s or fat 1/4s, and we are going to have to fold it into 4ths. So first up, I will fold my fabric with the fabric fold on the bottom. I usually line it up with one of the lines on my cutting mat, and then I bring the top down so that I can find another line on my cutting mat to align the second fold. That way, we are sure to have 2 folds that are perfectly parallel to each other, and we're ready to cut. We take our ruler, and I use the 0 line on the bottom to align with the bottom fold, and you will notice then that you will have a fold on the top that's going to align with in this case, the 6 inch line or any other line on your ruler. I always make sure that the raw edges of the fabric are to the left of my 0 slit, and I'm ready to cut strips. So for whatever pattern you're working on, if it calls for cutting strips in 1/4 inch increments, this is the ruler for you. So you just start by placing your rotary cutter in the teardrop on the bottom, make the first cut through the 0, and then depending on what your pattern asks for, you cut your strips, whether that is 1 1/4 in this case, so the next cut would be 2 1/2, 3 3/4, and then 5. So you have your 1 1/4 inch strips ready to go. This, of course, applies the same way for subcutting your strips into squares and rectangles. Whenever you need to cut in 1/8 inch increments in multiples, there's an easy, handy chart that comes with your ruler and your ruler instructions. And so I'm going to show you how to do that, cut in multiples. And I'm going to show you an example of cutting 1 7/8 inch increments. So I'm going to line I have my fabric folded just like before. I have the fold on the 0 line, and I'm ready to make my first cuts. I'm going to cut through the 0, and then according to the chart, I'm going to make my second cut on the 3 3/4 inch slit. I'm going to remove that little sliver I trimmed off, and then align my ruler again. And now I'm lining it up with the 1/8 inch line, the black dotted line to the left of the 0 slit, and keeping the same horizontal 0 line on the bottom, making my second cuts through the 1 3/4 according to the chart, and then the 5 1/2. And I have my 1 7/8 inch strips. Now, if your pattern calls for cutting those strips into squares, easy to do. I'm going to open up my strips and arrange them on the lines on my cutting mat. I like to stagger them so I can easily see each and every one. You could make stacks too if you need to cut multiples, but this way you can make sure that all the strips are straight and secured under the ruler before cutting. So I align my 0 line with the bottom strip, and then you can see that the horizontal lines are getting lined up with the strips. You can adjust if you need to. And then I'm making sure that my first cut through the 0 is going to trim off all of my selvages. So I start just the same way through the 0, and then my second cut through the 1 3/4. No, sorry, 3 3/4. And remove the trimmed off edges. And now I line everything back up again on the 1/8 inch line dotted line, and I'm ready to make my second cuts, and that is going to be at 1 3/4 and then 5 1/2. And this way I have my 1 7/8 inch squares. The mini rulers are perfect for working with smaller pieces of fabric like charm squares. I like cutting my squares apart diagonally using the slits on the rulers so that I'm making sure that they are nice and straight and I don't go off to the side. So we have lines on both sides of the ruler. On the left side, you'll see a dotted line extending out this way, and on the right side, out this way. Left side is easier to use for left-handed people, and then right side for right-handed. And so here's how that works. I have my 2 charm squares layered right sides together, and I'm going to cut them apart. So you have the dotted white lines. You can line them up on the bottom of the squares, and once you have it lined on both sides, you will notice that the outermost slit, which is the 6 1/4 inch slit on the right side, is going to be the 0 slit on the left side. It's going to line up corner to corner perfectly, so you can cut your pieces apart without worrying about ruining it by going off, and you can take them straight to your sewing machine for sewing together. The Stripology Quarters Mini Ruler has squaring up markings for any 1/4 inch size. And you will use the opposite side of the ruler, so you'll turn it around, you'll notice it says square upside. So here you will notice there are squares alternating in black and white extending out from the center. So you will notice the black one, first one here is 1 3/4, the white one is 2 1/4, 2 3/4, and so on. So when you are trimming up a block or block parts, you will find the size that you're going to be trimming to and centering that on your block. So in this case, I'm going to be trimming to a 3 3/4. I have my half square triangle block here, and I made sure to mark my square, my 3 3/4 inch square, on 4 corners with my ruler stickers pointing at the white diagonal dotted line. And then I have a different color marked here on the 2 slits I'm going to be cutting through, and they are marked 3 3/4. So all I have to do now is center my square on my block. I use the diagonal line to line up with my seam, and I'm ready to make my cuts. Make 2 cuts through the slits indicated. I turn my block and then repeat the process. I have my diagonal seam here, and now on top of it you will have horizontal lines, the top and bottom line of that square lined up with the sides of the trimmed block, and you make your second cuts. And you have a perfect half square triangle. If you wanted to trim a block that doesn't have a diagonal seam, but it might have horizontal seams, you will have that center thick line both ways that you can line up with those seams. The Stripology Quarters Mini Ruler is perfect for fuzzy cutting anything in 1/4 inch increments. So here I wanted to fuzzy cut this reindeer, and so all I have to do is line that up. My ruler on top, I have the square upside, and I have both horizontal and vertical lines, diagonal lines, to make sure that my little reindeer is centered. I can see that the smallest square is 1 3/4, and that's kind of centered around the motif. So what I love about this ruler also is that because the squares are 1/4 inch apart, you can easily assess where your seam is going to land. So for example, if I want my seam to be really nice and tight around the motif, I would cut it a 1/4 inch larger, so at 2 1/4. If I wanted a little more room, I would cut it 2 3/4. In this case, I'm going to make that 2 3/4 inch cut because it's going to give me a little more room So I just go into the slits at 2 3/4, make the 2 cuts. And this is great to use if you're doing embroidery and you have those units that may be a little bit thick. The ruler will just lift up where there's thickness in the block, and you can still have everything trimmed up nicely, and the ruler is stable on your motif. So making our second cuts, 2 3/4. And we have a perfectly fuzzy cut little reindeer.